New York City remembered its skyscrapers like legends, Rockefeller, Woolworth, Chrysler, but it forgot the women who built them. Their ideas stolen, their designs signed under a man's name, their legacies buried so deep that even museums didn't dare mention them. But one woman refused to be erased. Her name was Dr. Liana Crestwood, architectural historian, professor at Columbia University, and granddaughter of one of the first undocumented female architects in New York, Evelyn Crestwood, a genius whose blueprints had shaped half of Manhattan. Yet history claimed she never existed. And Liana was about to burn the city with the truth, because New York had a history of stealing from women, and this time, a woman would steal something back. The lecture hall was full. Architecture students, journalists, city historians, even a few real estate tycoons who pretended not to care but leaned forward in their seats as soon as Liana began. Behind her, a massive screen displayed a faded blueprint of a 1930s skyscraper, the Astoria Crown Building, one that had been credited to a male architect who later became mayor. "Ladies and gentlemen," Liana said, her voice sharp as cut glass, "this is the original concept sketch of the Astoria Crown Building, and it was drawn by a woman." A low murmur spread like smoke. Liana pressed the button. A second blueprint appeared, signed in bold ink by Evelyn Crestwood. "These drawings were found sealed in my grandmother's storage locker," Liana continued, her gaze sweeping the room. "Every structural innovation, cross-bracing, elevator shaft orientation, thermal optimization was hers. And yet, every textbook in America gives credit to Harold Danforth." An elderly historian stood up, his face flushed. "This is an accusation of fraud." "No," Liana replied, her voice ringing with conviction. "This is the beginning of a correction." Another slide, another stolen building, another erased woman. The hall crackled with tension, but in the back row, a woman with diamond earrings, perfect posture, and eyes like razors whispered into her phone, "She's getting too close. Handle it." Her name was Veronica Dane, CEO of Dane and Holt Architects, the largest architectural firm in the eastern United States, and the granddaughter of the very man who stole Evelyn Crestwood's designs. She wasn't going to let a history lecture destroy her empire. Sentenced after the lecture, Liana packed her laptop, expecting praise, debate, maybe controversy. She did not expect Veronica to approach her. "Dr. Crestwood," Veronica said, extending a perfectly manicured hand, her smile cold and professional. "Brilliant presentation." Liana shook it cautiously. "Thank you." "But you must understand," Veronica continued, her tone patronizing. "Architecture is a collaborative field. Lines blur, credits shift. The past is messy." "Messy?" Liana repeated, a dangerous edge creeping into her voice. "Stealing from women isn't messy. It's deliberate and criminal." Veronica's smile hardened, the warmth draining entirely. "Be careful with the accusations you make, darling. You could ruin careers, disrupt generational wealth. Think of the legal implications." "Some careers deserve to be ruined," Liana stated, meeting the razor-sharp gaze without flinching. Veronica leaned in, her scent expensive and cloying. "You're playing with family reputations, billion-dollar developments, and political alliances that keep this city running. Stop now, while you still can." "Is that a threat?" "It's a warning from someone who understands how the city truly works," Good, Liana said, a genuine smile finally touching her lips. Warnings tell me I'm on the right path. Veronica straightened her coat, the silk rustling like dry leaves. Publish your little history papers if you want, but if you try to reopen certain archives or access sealed city documents, she paused for dramatic effect, doors will close, permanently. Liana stared. Doors don't scare me. They're what architects build. Veronica's smile vanished completely, replaced by pure, undisguised contempt. And the war officially began. 2 days later, Liana found her university office door wide open. Nothing was stolen, nothing broken. Everything was unnervingly reorganized. Her books were rearranged by color, her scattered blueprints stacked neatly, her grandmother's sensitive notes placed dead center on the desk, a silent, precise message. We can reach you any time. We know what you have. But Liana wasn't intimidated. She was galvanized. This wasn't a warning. It was a declaration of war on her own turf. She spent the entire night scanning every blueprint her grandmother ever touched. Some were incomplete. Others had mysterious water damage, deliberate sabotage decades old. But one set of drawings stood out, an unfinished, dazzling proposal for a building Evelyn had titled simply, The Matriarch. It was unlike anything constructed in the 1930s. Fluid, modernist curves, sustainable airflow, communal workspaces, a structure decades ahead of its time. A masterpiece of #future design. Why? Liana whispered to the ghostly silence of her office. What happened to you, Grandma? What did they fear so much? The answer was somewhere in the bedrock of New York, and Liana was going to find it, piece by agonizing piece. The deeper Liana dug, the more disturbing the patterns became. Women assistants who were actually the lead designers. Female draftsmen whose work was published under male supervisors. Building permits filed under male names even when women created the entire structure. It wasn't one theft. It was a systematic, institutional #erasure spanning 90 years. But Evelyn Crestwood's case was the worst. She had been mentioned in exactly one archived city directory from 1931, and then disappeared completely. No death certificate, no property deeds, no business records, nothing. Liana went to the municipal archive, ready to tear through dusty files with sheer force of will. The clerk scanned his computer. Evelyn Crestwood. Strange. His brows tightened. This name is restricted. Restricted? Liana repeated, the blood draining from her face. She wasn't a spy. She was an architect. I'm sorry, Dr. Crestwood. Access denied. System policy. Liana inhaled sharply, recognizing the invisible hand tightening around her research. Veronica Dane had done this, reaching back through bureaucracy to seal a historical murder. If history locked Evelyn out, Liana would break in. That night, as Liana left the archives, a black town car rolled up beside her. The window lowered. Veronica sat inside, sipping champagne, an unsettling blend of luxury and malice. Still digging into ghosts? She asked sweetly. What do you want, Veronica? To give you one last chance. Drop this. Your grandmother was no one, a footnote, a draftsgirl with a crush on my powerful grandfather. She designed half of Midtown, you parasite. She sketched ideas, Veronica corrected, her voice ice. My grandfather built an empire on action, not dreams. On stolen genius and a dead woman's silence. Veronica's mask cracked, revealing the inherited rage of a dynasty founded on theft. Listen carefully, Dr. Crestwood. If you walk away, I will let you have your quiet academic life. Publish your harmless articles. Teach your cute little students. But if you cross this line, the champagne glass clicked against the doorframe, a sharp, metallic sound. Then I will erase you, Veronica whispered, her voice laced with venom. The way your grandmother was erased. Everything you hold dear, your career, your reputation, your future, will vanish. The car sped off, leaving Liana alone on the sidewalk. Her pulse hammered, but her resolve turned to steel. You made a mistake, Veronica, she whispered to the receding taillights. You warned an architect, and architects build revenge. The next morning, Liana walked into the New York Public Library with a plan based on the slim records she had. Evelyn worked here briefly. Not the tourist floors, not the reading rooms. She went deeper, down the restricted corridors, past the locked gates, into the basement archives that most New Yorkers never knew existed. She had one advantage. Her grandmother had once worked here in the 1930s as a temporary archivist. If Evelyn left anything behind, it would be in the one place men never bothered to look. Storage rooms full of women's paperwork and ephemeral correspondence. A guard blocked her at level B2. Restricted floor, ma'am. Liana handed him a forged authorization badge, a masterful fake designed last night using museum templates and the city's outdated logo files. The guard scanned it. Green light. She walked in, heart slamming like a construction hammer. Rows of metal cabinets stretched into darkness, decades of forgotten history. When she reached a drawer labeled 1930 to 1935, Urban Development, Unofficial Submissions, her breath caught. Inside was a dusty envelope marked Crestwood, E. Confidential. Her hands trembled as she opened it, expecting a final blueprint. But instead, it was a letter, handwritten, dated October 11th, 1934. If anything happens to me, the truth lies beneath the foundations of the Astoria crown. E.C. Liana froze. A clue, a message from a murdered grandmother, and beneath the signature, a small drawing of a staircase spiraling downward. Not just a metaphor, a map. Redhead Crown, the very skyscraper where Liana had begun her correction, was currently managed by none other than, of course, Dane and Holt Architects, Veronica's firm. Liana booked a fake appointment under a fake company name, claiming to be studying airflow modeling in historic buildings. 2 days later, she walked through the gilded lobby, ignoring the iconic mural of Harold Danforth shaking hands with the mayor. A receptionist smiled. "Welcome. Your guide will meet you shortly." "Actually," Liana said, her voice expertly smooth, "I can explore alone for a few minutes. I need to observe the environmental systems in the sub-basements before I begin." She slipped into the stairwell before the confused receptionist could call security. She went to the basement, then deeper. Sub-basement 1, sub-basement 2. The air grew heavy, smelling of damp concrete and ancient plumbing. At the bottom, she found a rusted maintenance door blocked with a thick metal chain. On the door, faded paint, no access, sealed since 1934. Her pulse spiked. 1934, the year Evelyn disappeared. Using a powerful, compact bolt cutter hidden in the base of her research bag, she snapped the chain and entered. A long corridor stretched into the dark. Dripping pipes, dusty beams, silence thick as cement. At the end, she reached a locked metal panel. She pressed her ear to the cold steel. Air. Behind this wall was a room. Taking a deep breath, she used a crowbar to pry the panel open. The heavy metal shrieked against the decades of rust. Inside was a small, dusty chamber. And on the floor, a large wooden blueprint chest. Her throat tightened. She dragged the chest into the faint light filtering from the stairwell, forced it open, and gasped. Inside were Evelyn Crestwood's missing designs, hundreds of them. But not just buildings, evidence, letters, receipts, legal documents, contracts showing her name scratched out and Danforth's written over it. It was everything Liana needed to expose the largest architectural fraud in American history. But there was one more thing, a second chest, metal, locked, with Evelyn's initials carved deep into the lid. Liana lifted it. "Dr. Crestwood?" She spun around. A security guard, hand on his radio, eyes narrowed. "You're not supposed to be here. This is a restricted sublevel." Her mind raced. If he reported this, Veronica would know immediately. The evidence would be seized or destroyed. "Please," Liana said quietly, projecting a desperate, fragile vulnerability she didn't feel. "Let me explain. My grandmother worked here. I think she left something personal before she died." The guard hesitated, his expression shifting from suspicion to momentary pity. He was one moment away from believing the lie, but then heavy, purposeful footsteps echoed from the corridor behind him. Veronica was coming. The guard's eyes widened in panic, abandoning the radio and focusing entirely on blocking the approaching threat. Liana knew she had seconds. She grabbed the second metal chest, small enough to carry, and shoved it into her oversized research bag, burying it under rolls of paper. The guard, trying to buy her time, called out, "Ma'am, you need to leave the restricted area now." Liana scrambled out, leaving the large wooden chest with its overwhelming proof of fraud behind, prioritizing the small chest with the unknown secret. She flew up the stairs, knowing the noise of the opened wall would lead Veronica directly to the exposed evidence. Liana didn't sleep for the next 3 nights. Her apartment table was covered in blueprints, Evelyn's journal, old photographs, and the legal documents showing decades of stolen female labor. The knowledge that Veronica had already secured the vast evidence from the wooden chest, the hashtag smoking gun of Harold Danforth's fraud, was a cold knot of dread. But Liana still had the second metal chest, marked with Evelyn's initials, which she had successfully smuggled out. By sunrise, she had made a decision. She couldn't build the matriarch alone, and she couldn't fight Veronica's corporate might and political immunity single-handedly. She needed a team, not ordinary architects. She needed women like Evelyn, brilliant, hidden, erased, uncredited. By the end of the week, she had quietly contacted 5 specialists. 1. Asha Narang, a structural engineer, fired for refusing to sign her male boss's faulty, budget-cutting design. 2. Sofia Marinetti, an Italian architect whose high-rise concept was stolen by a billionaire developer and built in Dubai. 3. Meilin Zhao, a ventilation and environmental systems genius, blacklisted for exposing unsafe city practices in new school construction. 4. Carmen Reyes, a Puerto Rican urban planning architect who was denied permits for her community-focused designs for not fitting the company image. Clang. 5. Harper O'Donnell, a sharp financial strategist who specialized in exposing corporate fraud and navigating shell companies. The Bella they all met in Liana's apartment, nervous, curious, but ready for a fight they had spent their entire careers preparing for. Blueprints covered every wall. The matriarch's fluid curves and sustainable innovations glowed under soft lamps. Liana laid out the tragic story, the theft, the murder, and Veronica's active protection of the crime. "I want to build the matriarch," Liana said, her voice low and fierce, "exactly as Evelyn dreamed it. But I also want to dismantle and destroy Dane and Holt." Maylin leaned forward, a glimmer of dark anticipation in her eyes. "You want corporate revenge?" "No," Liana replied. "I want justice. I want to build a structure so permanent, so visible, that it permanently discredits the foundation of her empire." Carmen smiled, a slow, predatory expression. "I'm in." One by one, the others nodded. The Council of Forgotten Women was born, unified by shared trauma and professional brilliance. The Council's first mission was decoding Evelyn's final testament. Liana studied Evelyn's leather-bound journal. It was testimony, dates, meetings, sketches, all documenting Harold Danforth's calculated manipulation. But inside the journal was a small, embossed keyhole drawing. Harper, the strategist, examined the silver key Liana had secured from the library archives. "This isn't for a safe deposit box," she said. "It's for an old, high-security city archive vault, likely beneath City Hall." Liana's eyes widened. If Evelyn stored the final, irreversible proof of Harold's crimes, the murder evidence, there, they had a weapon that could destroy Veronica permanently. The council met again, this time at midnight across from City Hall. The underground vaults were rarely used now, replaced by digital systems. Asha cut open a rusty maintenance gate with a silent, portable saw, her structural skills invaluable for the B&E. Cold air drifted out, carrying the smell of old paper and forgotten history. The key fit perfectly. The vault door creaked open, revealing old maps, building permits, and sealed envelopes. Liana went straight to a small wooden cabinet marked Archives, 1930 to 1935, Special Files. She unlocked it with the silver key. Inside were court documents, sworn affidavits, witness statements, and a taped interview transcript labeled "The Crestwood Case, Do Not Release." The transcript revealed everything. Harold Danforth bribed city officials, blocked Evelyn's permits, forged her signatures, threatened her life, and arranged for her final disappearance and suspected murder through corrupt police contacts after she refused to submit. Maylin placed a hand over her mouth. This is an indictment of the city's power structure," Harper added quietly. "This could put Veronica in prison too, as an accessory after the fact, protecting a homicide for 90 years. Liana held the proof, the absolute final truth. Her grandmother had been murdered. But Liana's plan for vengeance was already set. She wanted a monument that would never be forgotten. Designing the matriarch was one challenge. Funding it was another. They needed tens of millions, maybe more. Harper arranged secret meetings, but Veronica, leveraging her family's political network, fought them at every turn. Investors who expressed interest received anonymous threats and sudden zoning warnings. Within a week, 70% of pledged funding vanished. "She's blackmailing them," Harper shouted. "She's using her father's political connections. We're finished before we start." "We go around her," Carmen declared, sliding a folder onto the table. "Grassroots, community, women-owned businesses, crowdfunding, immigrant communities whose grandmothers faced the same erasure." "You're suggesting we build the first skyscraper in history funded mostly by women?" Harper asked, astonished. "Yes," Carmen said. Let women build what men tried to erase. Liana felt a profound connection to Evelyn's spirit. They launched a global campaign, Build the Matriarch, a tower for every woman history forgot. Donations poured in from every corner of the globe. The matriarch wasn't just a building, it was a hashtag, global movement. Begging Veronica watched the donation numbers rise. Millions, then tens of millions, with growing horror. The project was becoming unstoppable. She ordered her lawyers to file a frivolous lawsuit, claiming Liana had stolen designs from Dane and Holt. Liana countered instantly by releasing the Crestwood case, transcript. The city exploded. Front-page news, national headlines, hashtag Justice for Evelyn, and hashtag She Designed New York trended worldwide. Dane and Holt collapsed under investigation. Clients pulled out of billion-dollar projects. Veronica's empire cracked like a falling tower. But she wasn't done fighting. The night after the documents went public, she marched into Liana's apartment uninvited, her face a mask of primal fury. You think you've won? Everything you destroyed was my birthright. Your birthright, Liana corrected, was built on a woman's grave. Veronica lifted a small signal jammer, silencing Liana's phone, then pulled a gun from her coat. I'm not here to argue. You should have stopped when I warned you. But the council had been monitoring Veronica's movements. Before she could aim, the door burst open. Carmen tackled Veronica from behind. Asha and Sophia grabbed the gun. Maylin called the police on a backup secure line. Harper filmed the entire violent attack, capturing the final, damning evidence of Veronica's criminal desperation. As officers dragged a screaming Veronica away, Liana stood still, breathing hard. It was over, for Veronica, but not for Liana. Crimson on the Matriarch began on a cold March morning, a quiet dawn, no billionaires. The groundbreaking ceremony was led by the daughters of construction workers, retired female engineers, architecture students, and elderly women who had seen history erase too many of them. Liana stood on the podium, facing the hundreds of cheering women. This isn't just a building, Liana said into the microphone. This is every woman history tried to erase, finally rising. This tower will be a monument to uncredited labor, built by the very hands that were once forced into the shadows. The excavators hummed, digging the foundation deep into the bedrock of Manhattan, symbolizing a new, unshakable foundation for female legacy. Asha ensured the structural engineering was flawless. Sophia oversaw the design's perfect realization. Carmen managed the permits and zoning battles Veronica's last cronies attempted to ignite. Maylin implemented Evelyn's original, groundbreaking sustainable airflow designs, making the Matriarch the most environmentally advanced building in the city. Harper managed the donations, ensuring every dollar from the grassroots funding campaign went toward its intended purpose. 4 years later, the steel spire of the Matriarch pierced the New York skyline. It stood proud, a modernist curve of glass and reinforced concrete, a towering testament to the price of hashtag female genius. The building's grand opening was a solemn, triumphant event. In the lobby, Liana and the council unveiled a massive bronze plaque. It didn't honor a male benefactor or a politician. It listed Evelyn Crestwood, architect, 1934, the Council of Forgotten Women, Builders, 2025. A dedication to all uncredited female labor. Liana walked up to the very top floor, a circular observation deck Evelyn had designed for communal viewing. From that height, New York looked like a giant, beautiful cemetery of stolen dreams. Veronica Dane was serving time. Harold Danforth was posthumously stripped of all honors. Liana finally opened the small metal second chest she had found beneath the Astoria crown. Inside, there was only one thing: the last blueprint. It wasn't a building design. It was a beautiful, meticulously detailed map of a new, fully equitable city district designed by Evelyn. A sustainable urban plan intended for the city council, years ahead of its time. A final, perfect gift. Evelyn hadn't just exposed the past, she had left the blueprint for a better future. Liana closed the chest, a quiet smile settling on her lips. The city that remembered its skyscrapers like legends finally remembered the woman who had truly built them. The matriarch stood, solid and enduring. The final word in the history of female architecture in New York. #Legacy restored.